You have been systematically lied to. That bowl of white rice isn't a toxic poison. It is the exact fuel your starving cells crave. Today, I'll expose a hidden biological loophole that lets you devour your favorite carbs without ever triggering a blood sugar spike again. Imagine sitting at your dining table, a plate of steaming white rice or a warm, crusty slice of freshly baked sourdough bread resting quietly in front of you. Now, imagine looking at that food not as comfort or nourishment, but as a loaded weapon aimed directly at your heart. How did we get here? How did humanity reach a terrifying point where a simple, ancient staple of human survival is now viewed with the exact same paralyzing fear as a vial of lethal poison? You have been lied to. A massive, silent psychological crime has been committed against you, turning your own kitchen into a daily interrogation room and stripping away one of the most fundamental, grounding joys of human existence. The truth about what is actually happening inside your arteries when you eat that rice will absolutely shock you. And by the end of our time together today, everything you thought you knew about your metabolism will be permanently shattered. Healthy Aging US welcomes you to this investigative journey into the hidden mechanics of your own body. If you are ready to finally uncover the truth and break free from the exhausting daily prison of nutritional fear, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel right now. Your support is the very engine that drives us to continue exposing these truths and creating these deeply researched, life-changing videos for you. Over my 30 years working as a physician, I haven't just looked at sterile lab results. I have looked deeply into the terrified eyes of thousands of patients. The most devastating trauma I treat doesn't come screaming through the emergency room doors on a blood-stained stretcher. It sits quietly in my consultation chair, weeping over a slice of bread. It is the silent, insidious corrosion of joy. I want you to feel the agonizing despair of Margaret. She is a 62-year-old retired school teacher, a grandmother of 4, a woman whose entire life was built on warmth and care. Yet when she sat in my office last month, she was shivering with guilt. Her horrific, unforgivable crime? She had surrendered to a single sliver of her grandson's birthday cake and a modest scoop of mashed potatoes. For an entire week afterward, she punished herself, starving her body in penance. I watched her demonstrate how she checked her blood glucose, her fingers physically trembling as she pierced her skin. Utterly convinced she had just flooded her veins with a biological acid that was actively corroding her lifespan. She had been terrorized, completely robbed of the basic human dignity of sharing a meal with her family. Margaret is not an anomaly. She is the intended result of a global epidemic of nutritional anxiety that has criminalized basic sustenance. We have been systematically conditioned to believe that carbohydrates are malicious, sentient entities lying in wait to destroy our vascular walls and trigger catastrophic blood sugar spikes. But I ask you to pause and look at the glaring, chilling paradox right outside your window. Have you ever wondered why, as we restrict our diets with more agonizing discipline than ever before, the waiting rooms of endocrinology clinics are bursting at the seams? Why, as we starve our bodies and banish entire food groups, do the dietary supplement companies continue to erect towering, glass-facaded skyscrapers funded by our desperation? We are living in an era of unprecedented, absolute dietary restriction, yet we have never been more exhausted, more metabolically shattered, or more profoundly sick. The sheer psychological exhaustion of treating every single bite of food as a high-stakes mathematical equation of fear triggers a daily cascade of cortisol in your brain that does infinitely more damage to your insulin sensitivity than the carbohydrate you are so desperately trying to avoid. The prevailing narrative demands that you live as a punished ascetic, denying yourself the cultural and physical nourishment that allowed your ancestors to thrive for millennia. But as a man who has dedicated his entire waking life to studying the exquisite, microscopic architecture of the human body, I am looking you in the eye to tell you this is a profound lie. I am not here today to sell you a proprietary powder, a miracle pill, or a restrictive meal plan. I am sitting across from you right now, functioning as your metabolic detective, handing you a definitive escape map. The human body is a miraculous, wildly resilient machine, equipped with breathtakingly elegant mechanisms designed specifically to handle glucose. The fuel is not the enemy. Our utter ignorance of how to deliver it is. Today, we are going to walk through the crime scene together.
We are going to decode your biology and unequivocally lift the life sentence on your favorite foods, proving once and for all that you never needed to fear the rice. You only needed to learn how to master it. To master this vital energy source, we must first step inside the microscopic universe of your bloodstream and witness the breathtaking ballet of metabolism that has been so ruthlessly misunderstood. When you take a bite of that steaming white rice, your body does not panic, nor does it view the incoming morsel as a toxic invader. Instead, an ancient, incredibly sophisticated chain of events is set into motion, designed over millions of years of evolution to keep you alive, vibrant, and moving. From the moment the enzymes in your saliva make contact with the starch, your biology is working to unlock the trapped solar energy within the food, breaking it down into glucose. Glucose is not a villain. It is the fundamental currency of human life. It is the very fuel that powers the beating of your heart, the expansion of your lungs, and the firing of the delicate synapses in your brain that allow you to form memories of your loved ones. To declare war on glucose is to declare war on the biological essence of your own vitality. The tragedy of our modern health narrative is that we have confused the substance with the delivery system. The true danger you face is not the presence of glucose in your blood, but the violent velocity at which it arrives. Imagine a dry, parched riverbed. If a gentle, steady rain falls, the soil greedily absorbs the water, the surrounding flora blossoms, and the ecosystem thrives in perfect harmony. But if a massive dam suddenly collapses, unleashing millions of gallons of water in a matter of seconds, the result is catastrophic flash flooding. The soil is ripped away, the banks collapse, and the landscape is devastated. The water itself was never the enemy. The sheer speed and unregulated volume of the delivery caused the destruction. This is precisely what happens inside your vascular system when you eat naked carbohydrates on an empty stomach. The rapid influx of glucose creates a flash flood in your bloodstream, forcing your pancreas to panic and pump out a massive surge of insulin to forcibly push the sugar into your cells and clear the overflow. This biological panic is what damages your endothelium, creates chronic inflammation, and leaves you feeling lethargic, starving, and irritable just 2 hours after a meal. But the supplement industry and diet gurus do not want to teach you how to manage the flow of the river. They want to sell you the fear of the water. They want you to believe that the only way to avoid the flood is to permanently turn your body into a barren, arid desert by cutting out carbohydrates entirely. As a physician, I can tell you that living in a metabolic desert is just as damaging, if not more so, than the occasional flood. It strips your thyroid of its regulatory power, plummets your testosterone and estrogen, and leaves your adrenal glands screaming for cortisol just to keep you upright. Your cells are literally starving in the dark while you desperately try to adhere to a lifestyle that feels like an endless punishment. You do not need to banish the rain to save the riverbed.
You possess the biological capacity to build natural levees, to slow the rushing water down to a gentle, nourishing trickle that your cells can drink in with perfect ease and zero distress. The secret does not lie in starvation, nor does it require a pharmacy. It requires a profound understanding of how to sequence the raw materials you place on your plate. Once you realize that the danger lies not in the water itself, but in the sudden violence of the flood, the solution shifts from building a dam of deprivation to simply learning how to control the current. We have entirely forgotten that the human digestive tract is not a hollow, passive tube. It is a highly intelligent environment that responds dynamically to the order in which it receives information. If you toss a bowl of bare white rice into an empty, fasting stomach, the gastric emptying is nearly instantaneous. The starches hit the small intestine with zero resistance, dissolving directly into the bloodstream like a shot of pure adrenaline. But what if we could physically alter the architecture of your upper intestine before the rice ever arrives? What if we could deploy a biological shield that catches the glucose, slowing its absorption from a violent rush into a slow, sustained drip? You have the power to do exactly this at every single meal, and the mechanism is something your ancestors did purely by instinct. I want you to think about how a traditional, hearty meal used to be consumed before the advent of the modern, ultra-processed food industry. We began with fibrous vegetables, moved to rich proteins and fats, and finished with the starches. This was not merely a cultural tradition of dining. It was an accidental stroke of physiological genius. When you consume soluble and insoluble fiber first, whether it is a simple plate of roasted broccoli, a crisp green salad, or a serving of lightly sautéed spinach, you are doing something extraordinary. That fiber moves into the upper intestine and instantly unfolds, weaving itself into a viscous, protective mesh that literally coats the lining of your gut. It acts exactly like a sponge placed over a drain. When you follow that fiber with protein and healthy fats, you further slow the rate of gastric emptying, signaling to your brain that profound satiety has been achieved. By the time you finally take a bite of that warm, comforting white rice, the environment inside your stomach has been completely transformed. The carbohydrate no longer hits a bare, vulnerable mucosal wall. It lands softly into that complex matrix of fiber, protein, and fat. The enzymes that would normally shred the starch into sugar instantly are physically blocked, forced to work significantly slower. The glucose is still extracted. You still receive every ounce of the energy, but now it enters your bloodstream as a gentle, rolling hill, rather than a terrifying, jagged cliff. Your pancreas does not panic. The insulin response is smooth and measured. There is no oxidative stress, no inflammatory cascade, and, critically, no horrific blood sugar crash an hour later that sends you frantically rummaging through the pantry for a sugary snack. I taught this exact sequencing strategy to Richard, a 55-year-old truck driver who came to me convinced he would have to give up his wife's homemade pasta forever to save his failing heart. He was angry, grieving the loss of his favorite rituals. When I told him he could still eat the pasta, provided he ate a large portion of fiber-dense vegetables and a solid protein first, he looked at me as if I were a charlatan. Yet 2 weeks later, he sat in the very same chair, staring at his continuous glucose monitor data with tears welling in his eyes. He had eaten the exact same portion of pasta, but by simply changing the chronological order of the food entering his mouth, his blood sugar curve was beautifully, perfectly flat. He had hacked his own biology without sacrificing a single ounce of joy. He was no longer a victim of his metabolism. He was its conductor. But building this dietary shield is only half the battle. To truly conquer the spike, we must activate the body's built-in furnaces waiting just beneath your skin.
While manipulating the digestive environment is a powerful defensive strategy, the human body is also equipped with a breathtakingly efficient offensive weapon against glucose spikes, one that requires absolutely no pharmaceutical intervention. Your skeletal muscles are the largest consumer of glucose in your entire body, acting as a massive metabolic sink waiting to drain excess sugar from your blood. Yet, in our modern, sedentary existence, we have systematically deactivated this sink at the exact moments we need it most. Picture the typical evening routine. We consume our heaviest, most carbohydrate-dense meal of the day, and then immediately collapse onto the sofa to watch television. We flood the bloodstream with energy, and then we tell the body to shut down. The glucose has nowhere to go. The muscle doors are locked tight, forcing the liver and pancreas into a desperate scramble to pack the excess energy away as visceral fat. But there is a hidden physiological loophole that is nothing short of miraculous. When you contract a muscle, whether it is your calves, your thighs, or your glutes, you trigger a unique biological pathway that bypasses insulin entirely. Muscle contractions compel the cells to forcibly pull glucose directly out of the bloodstream to fuel the movement. This means that if you simply change your physical state in the immediate aftermath of a meal, you can manually vacuum the circulating sugar out of your veins before it ever has the chance to cause endothelial damage. I am not talking about punishing yourself with a high-intensity treadmill sprint or lifting heavy weights while your stomach is full. The beauty of this mechanism is its demand for gentle, rhythmic simplicity. A mere 10 to 15 minutes of casual walking after you put your fork down is enough to fundamentally alter your metabolic trajectory for the next 24 hours. When you stand up from the dining table and take a stroll around your neighborhood, or even just pace around your living room while clearing the dishes, your leg muscles become relentless engines. They act as a secondary pancreas, independently clearing the postprandial flood. The rice you just ate is no longer lingering in your arteries, threatening to oxidize your cholesterol. It is being instantly incinerated by the slow, steady movement of your body. Think of it as turning on a gentle exhaust fan to clear the smoke from a kitchen before the fire alarm even realizes there is a fire. This one simple behavioral shift completely dismantles the guilt associated with eating. You are no longer viewing your meal as a biological assault that you must endure. You are viewing it as the precise fuel required for your post-dinner stroll under the evening sky. It reconnects you with the fundamental rhythm of human existence. We eat to move, and we move to live. By integrating this 10-minute habit into your daily routine, you grant your body the grace of immediate utilization, drastically reducing the insulin burden and proving to your nervous system that you are safe, functioning, and highly capable of handling whatever nourishment you choose to provide. When you combine the structural defense of your digestion with the quiet engine of your muscles, the prison walls of dietary fear finally begin to crumble. It is time to look at that bowl of white rice, that slice of sourdough bread, and that piece of birthday cake, and finally issue a full, unconditional pardon. For too long, the diet industry has thrived by turning your own kitchen into a theater of war, profiting immensely from the paralyzing fear that every bite is bringing you closer to a metabolic collapse. But you are now armed with a truth that renders their fear-mongering entirely obsolete. You understand the architecture of your digestion. You know how to build an invisible shield with fiber and protein, and you know how to ignite your cellular furnaces through the simple, rhythmic grace of movement. The era of white-knuckling your way through a dinner party, terrified of the carbohydrates on your plate, ends today.
I want you to think back to Margaret, the grandmother who sat in my office shivering with guilt over a slice of cake. The true crime was not the cake. The crime was the psychological torture inflicted upon her by a society that has forgotten how to live. When she finally understood the mechanics we have discussed today, the physical transformation was profound, but it was the emotional liberation that brought her to tears. She was no longer a prisoner. She was able to sit at the head of her dining table, surrounded by the laughter of her grandchildren, and partake in the simple, ancient communion of breaking bread without a single ounce of dread. She reclaimed her life, her joy, and her human dignity. That exact same liberation belongs to you. Your metabolism is not a fragile, incompetent system waiting to be broken by a grain of rice. It is a wildly adaptable, brilliant machine that has carried your bloodline through thousands of years of feast, famine, and survival. It just needs you to stop fighting it and start working alongside it. You do not have to live as an ascetic. You do not have to banish the foods that tie you to your culture, your childhood memories, and your family. By honoring the order in which you eat and giving your body the gentle movement it craves, you are providing your biology with the exact instruction manual it needs to process joy without penalty. So, tonight, when you sit down for dinner, I want you to take a deep, grounding breath. Look at your plate not as a mathematical equation of doom, but as the beautiful, nourishing sustenance it was always meant to be. Eat your vibrant vegetables first. Savor your proteins and rich, healthy fats. And when you reach for that carbohydrate, I want you to consume it with profound gratitude and absolute peace, knowing your body is masterfully equipped to handle it. You have served your time in the prison of nutritional anxiety. The doors are wide open. It is time to step out into the light, sit down at the table, and finally, truly, enjoy your life again. This is Healthy Aging US, and I am honored to have been your guide on this journey back to freedom. To truly master your health, you must abandon the exhausting narrative that carbohydrates are toxic enemies meant to be feared and restricted. The real culprit behind metabolic dysfunction is not glucose itself, but the violent flash floods of sugar rushing into your bloodstream when carbohydrates are consumed naked and alone. Fortunately, your biology is remarkably adaptable. By understanding the mechanics of your digestion, you can build a natural protective shield using the simple strategy of food sequencing. Eating fibrous vegetables first, followed by proteins and fats, and saving your starches for last, transforms your digestive tract into a slow-release matrix, flattening your blood sugar curve and preventing the chaotic insulin surges that drive inflammation and fatigue. Furthermore, your body possesses a built-in metabolic sink, your skeletal muscles. By engaging in just 10 to 15 minutes of gentle movement, like a casual walk, immediately after a meal, you activate a physiological pathway that pulls excess glucose directly out of your blood without requiring insulin. Together, these two structural and behavioral strategies completely dismantle the prison of dietary anxiety. You no longer have to sacrifice the foods that bring you joy, tie you to your culture, or connect you with your loved ones. You can reclaim your seat at the dining table with absolute peace of mind, knowing you are working in perfect harmony with your body's brilliant design, rather than endlessly fighting against it. Health is not achieved through deprivation, fear, or endless dietary restriction. It is achieved through strategic biological cooperation. Your metabolism is not a fragile system easily broken by a single carbohydrate, but a brilliant engine that thrives when given the right inputs in the right order. By managing how we eat, rather than obsessing solely over what we eat, we can enjoy lifelong metabolic harmony without sacrificing our joy and quality of life. Implement food sequencing. At every meal, consciously change the chronological order of your bites. Start with a serving of fiber, like a side salad, broccoli, or spinach. Move on to your proteins and healthy fats, and eat your carbohydrates last. Activate the muscle sink. Break the habit of sitting on the couch immediately after eating. Incorporate a 10 to 15-minute gentle walk or do light chores around the house right after your meals to allow your muscles to vacuum up the circulating glucose. Eat without guilt. Remove the moral labels of good or bad from your food. When you eat a carbohydrate using these two protective strategies, savor it completely and trust your body's innate ability to process it efficiently. Question of the day: what is your absolute favorite carbohydrate or comfort food that you are excited to enjoy again using this simple food sequencing trick? Please share your answers and thoughts down in the comments section below so our community can exchange ideas and inspire one another. If you found value in this message and want to support the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Your support gives us the incredible motivation to keep creating high-quality, life-changing health content for you.